This is just a Perrier bottle cut off and a sock over it. Looks like pump 2 in there is another Perrier bottle. Don't laugh, guys. This is a old wool sock that had a hole in it. It was pretty much ready for the trash, so I just tied a knot in it and slipped it over Perrier bottle. Okay, here's that third bin, and you can see it's just a white t-shirt cutting. This thin material works, but it's a good filter and everything, sure, but if I poke my thumb through there, I can probably get a hole in it. So, you know, it's just a natural organic material, where something like nylon is probably going to last all season. Okay, here we are in bin 4, and it looks like it's a short Perrier bottle. You can kind of see it down there with a real thick winter sock over it. So here we are up on the bigger bins for the bigger isolated plants. Don't cut it so squatty and short, because it's not a 27-gallon bin, it's a long, narrow trash can. You can see that I've got a nice long nylon-y type sock. You know, these are socks that were going to be thrown out. Okay, so in this case it is a Perrier bottle again. This wall is not as thick, it's kind of collapsed here. The bottom's doing okay. Big knot in that sleeve. This one I just try to drill a hole straight into the cap. Okay, here's Mr. Cherry Tomato. Yeah, this is an alcohol bottle. You see the shape down there? It's kind of that squarish type shape. I love these bottles. I love the adapter on top too, because it's already got that kind of built-in. I'll show you on the alcohol bottle why I like them so much. They got that built-in cap, the built-in tube on the cap, which really helps keep everything secure. And again, here we are in the last bin. I've made a 3D printed version with this cap, kind of an adapter, which again, it's not called. I think it's not called bottle there, from what I can tell. And a big thick sock. Again, this is a cotton one, but I prefer the nylon socks. I think this cotton's so thick it'll probably last for the season. I'll just throw these away at the end of the season. Okay, guys, don't use this. Don't use these little sponges and try to stick them up a hole and think you're going to get that to work. This is what comes with those solar power pumps. They seem like they're great. These little sponges here. And if you try to put it in some garden tubing, all it'll do is get full of calcium and fertilizer and block up. So don't use these sponges on these bigger 12-volt pumps. They're okay for the 7-volt solar fountain pump setups. They actually are internalized in a little chamber in those pumps, so they're very convenient, but you're not going to want to use those for your stronger 12-volt pumps. You don't want to limit the water flow to your pump, so I would cut it a little wider as you go up. Still in search for the perfect bottle. I really like the Perrier bottles, but I think there's something better. I've used this kind of stuff, these kind of bottles. They do look like, oh, you have a bigger mouth here to let more surface area filter. But in the end, what happens is they're just too thin-walled. See, they collapse with the pressure of the pump. And then your t-shirt will get sucked in. It just doesn't work too good. So you want to get a real stiff bottle. Okay, let's say you don't have a stiff cap from a medicine bottle and you want to use one of these smaller caps. This one is not a Perrier bottle nor an alcohol bottle, which, you know, I prefer the alcohol bottle caps. But I do have these adapters that I sometimes push through a hole, and then these caps easily fit on. So it basically will be like this. And you can just push it on real good because the diameter is about the same size there. So that's a real tight fit. I'll put these on Thingiverse. Fun with Hydroponics. I'll set up an account. Look in the description for the link. Okay, guys, this is one of those alcohol bottles I was talking about. See how they have that little lip there? The peroxide bottles are the same way. But man, that's a great little, it's almost like having a 3D printed extension to go right through a lid and be very solid. I mean, I can't even get this off because this is kind of barbed, this valve. Kind of see how those barbs on there? So this is really a great option, especially for those long tanks where we want to slide a sock all the way up. I really like these types of lids, and they'll screw right onto many bottle types. I wonder if they'd even screw onto the Perrier bottle. Hold on. Indeed they do. You can see how they screw on, and that's not coming off. I can hardly get that. I'm going to have to really pull to get that thing off. Find a drill bit that goes right through that opening and just drill right into that little hub there. So it just fits perfect, and bam, you're golden. All right, here are these. Here, drill into this one, you got a perfect fit. Same thing here. I thought we would try these medicine type pill bottles as well. They're very stiff. So I've done this before with the alcohol one, and I think I used this drill bit here. Let me tell you what size it is. 932 size bit. So that will go right into your alcohol, or the lid from your hydrogen peroxide right here, like that. Can you see that? Advisable to just, grab a smaller drill bit. Start a little smaller. That way you don't totally have trouble going through there. Kind of like this. And just do it in steps, Work your way up to that bigger size. And then finally to the bigger size here. This one will go right in there. It's a little bit narrow still, so let's try to drill from the back side. Okay, I kind of spun it around on both sides, and I think it's a little bit wider now than the drill bit itself. I'm sure it's going to work just like this. But I want to try this pill bottle just because it seems like a good choice. It's very stiff. And then we can try this on an old Perrier bottle or something else that fits. So let's give this one a try. Yeah, that's real nice. I mean, I can tell you right now, that's pretty darn stiff. I don't even have it pushed all the way in. I kind of kept the barbs there going. It just likes to stay between those two ridges. Remember, there's kind of a barb fitting. It's right between the two. I think I'm just going to leave it there. I mean, it's pretty solid. It's not even wiggling or jiggling. It's pretty solid. And so if I cut out the bottom here, I can probably slide a nylon sock over it and then zip tie it on top. This plastic, you got to be careful. It's you don't want to use a razor blade and slice your finger. So some people, they just take a drill bit and go around and make holes, and they kind of scissor out the holes. Let's try that. Now one might ask, why don't you just leave it like that? The chemicals in your fertilizer kind of become hardened and deposit in those little holes, and eventually they clog up. So I personally like to open this up. Now I would leave the outer ridge here just to make the wall a little stiffer. So I just use the 932 bit again to make those holes bigger so I can get some kind of scissors in there. And my all-time favorite scissor is this one. It's really nice. It has a razor blade that you can take out and replace as it gets dull. I gotta say, this is one of the best garden tools I have. You can even prune small tree branches with this thing and just get a new razor blade. I love this thing. I'll put a link to Amazon below. Okay guys, we're back. Got it cut out. So I just need to slip a sock over that and zip tie it. There you go. Just like you got this for the next one, and I throw the rest of the sock out. Just do a little knot like that, and the water will still find its way in that hole there. Here I've got another one of those zip ties. Okay guys, here's that filter we just made. Works well. Here's that other one, guys. Before you go to soldering everything, you might want to just get these quick connects where you can connect your wires like this. They're really convenient. And then once they work, you can take them off and connect them the way you want long term. In the last video, guys, I showed you how to solder these solar panels to your pumps and filter setups. This is my favorite method, of course, with some shrink wrap. Let's say you have a heat gun like this, which is pretty heavily used, you see, and you don't have a whole solder iron, but you kind of want to do the solder method of connecting your pumps to your panels, because solder is a really good conductive agent that'll join them together. Well, you can get a box of these. They have the solder in the middle. You put your one wire from your panel in one, and you put your wire from your pump in the other, and then you just get your heat gun, kind of hold it steady, or if you have a helping hands, something like this, you can go ahead and put it on there, and you can just hit your heat gun on there, and it'll melt that solder in between. It'll join those together real nice as a shrink wrapped solder joint. I like those. And the third method that we didn't really talk about are these kind of things. They're just shrink wrap wire connectors, quick release. I like these too because, let me show you. They have these spade-like male connectors that slide into a female connector. So your wire comes in this on one side, and then the pump wire, for example, would come in the other side. So the panel on one, the pump on the other, and they would just be able to join together. And that way, if you need to take them apart, they're just very easy. You just pull them out. This is much easier to separate them without cutting the wires and having to resolder the next season. Now the connection might not be quite as good because, you know, water might, you know, they are shrink wrappable, but still on that little connection part there, water might intrude and you might get some oxidation. So not quite as a good solution, but still very good. I think I'll try these this time so you can get an idea how they work. The only bad thing about these are they do require a crimping tool. It's got the different gauges there. All right, guys, this is the in-series setup that you want right there. Okay, so remember the 18 volts is coming into your from your panel, going down that black wire, hooking up to that first pump. You're going to get a -9 voltage drop right there, half of it, because the other half is of the electrons are going to continue here, and you're going to get another -9 voltage drop, so that you're basically at 0 volts as you go back in. So you've consumed all the voltage in a sense, and each pump has gotten 9 volts, and you haven't gone past the 12 volt max for each pump. Now if we were to wire this in parallel, let me show you what would happen. You can see here how I think about connecting these in series rather than parallel. If I just took the red and white, or the reds, and put them in with the red of the solar panel and the blacks with the blacks of the solar panel, that would end up being in parallel and giving each pump 18 volts, which is more than we want. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do it in series. So when you think about series, what I like to do is think of electrons moving from black through the circuit to the red return wires. You want to start with the black of the solar panel, and then they find the black of the first pump. They go up the black of the first pump, they power it and come back out through the red, which is still the path of the electrons from the first pump, but now you want to go to that second pump. So the electrons are coming out the first pump's red, which is essentially still the electron, so I consider it kind of a black even though it's red, and then it hits the black of the second pump, and now it goes around here, continues up the black. Remember, electrons flow into the motor. They're attracted to the positive, the red side eventually, and they hit that motor, and then they go down the red, and they return to the solar panel, to the red wire of the solar panel. So that's kind of how they kind of go in series. They hit one, and then essentially the electrons hit the other pump, and they kind of make a loop and come back around. And that'll keep your voltage below the 18 volts that the solar panel wants to deliver, and split it in half, so you get about 9 in each pump, hopefully preserving the life of the pump. I accidentally hooked these up wrong and did it in parallel the first time round, and it still worked. It didn't burn it out immediately. The pumps seemed to have more power, more force to them, so I'm assuming that if I would have left it that way, I would have shortened the life of the pump perhaps, since they're only rated at 12. So by using these quick connects, I can easily test it out where I want to, and if I need to add extension wires or anything like that, it can be done quickly by just unscrewing these. So these do come in handy, especially when you're testing stuff out before you make anything permanent. Okay guys, we're back. Here's the location that I'm going to put these in, right here on the end. And I've got my panel up here facing to the sky. And you can see here, they're in series and they fit. So I'm going to take those quick connects and make... Alright guys, let's take these quick connects and put some of these type of quick connects with some shrink wrap, make it a little more permanent, more waterproof. Okay, let's put some pressure on there and do it. Okay, so one good crimp, and now some heat, but we'll do the other two before we get the heat gun out. Okay guys, try to do this in some consistent manner. So if you're going to have the pumps, the black for example would be the male, and if that's going to connect with the black of the solar panel, make that a female, and vice versa, so that if you do mix and match and swap, you have at least a male and a female on each device. And the other thing about using these crimp tools here are that you don't want to keep crimping them over and over. You do want one good solid crimp right down the middle. Make sure the wire's fed all the way through, coming out a little bit on the other side of that middle section. But don't keep crimping it, because it'll end up working less well than if you just did it one good hard crimp right in the middle. All right, we'll heat gun this up. Get that shrink wrap to go around the wire a little better for waterproofing. Got my trusty heat gun here. If you don't have a heat gun or you have a smaller one, that should work just as well. I use this to melt plastic and things when I repair my bin, so I wanted something a little more powerful. But just a flame of a candle from a distance, if you hover it above, or a butane lighter, you just don't want to get too close to it that you melt all the plastic. You just want to kind of shrink it, not melt it totally, put holes in it. Okay guys, be careful with these heat guns. They get really hot, so keep your fingers out of the path of the hot air. And just kind of spin this baby around a little bit. Spin it around so you're not blasting with just one little spot. Just like that, okay? I think that's good. I'd probably overdo it if I keep going. Okay guys, not perfect, but I think it'll work. Okay guys, they're wired up here on the bins, ready to go. They should fit fine, and we'll get it in service tomorrow morning, see how it works.